Hi, Deacon John Wilson here, Education and Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. No doubt you've heard about the apparent pressure that supposedly the media is saying is on Harvard University. And what I'm going to do now is walk you through some of the latest articles. Now, I'm using Ground News. Ground News is a great source to get to the bottom of issues and check out the bias on issues from one side or the other. We'll do some of that. I hope I can get this video done fairly quickly. The goal of the video is to show you where we are on the Harvard situation and tell you what I think is going to happen in regard to Harvard, the pressure the government is putting on Harvard. And of course, the media is not good at telling you why it's happening. Some of you might think it's just evil Trump or whatever, but I think the administration is making some mistakes, and I'll cover those very shortly. All right, so let's take a look at how we can use ground news to track this issue all the way through and check the biases along the way. You got to fight through the headlines a little bit, but I think I can explain to you what's going on using that. Okay, let's bring it on up here. Okay, here it is. Okay, here we are. This is articles that were taking place. Let's see when. Uh, Back 2 days after President Trump took office, apparently there was a settlement. I'll give you all these links below, all five of these links. Don't worry. And you can go right into Ground News and look at them, I think, for free. You should really set up an account there and keep up with the news. It's very cheap. It's a great way if you're on the run and can't keep up with news. So here's a story that was in Ground News 2 days after Trump came in office. And you'll see it was not covered at all from the left. So none of the left wing or liberal sources, as you see over to the right, cover this. From the center, CNN covered the story. You can click their story up here. Harvard University settles two anti-Semitism lawsuits that students had brought suits against the school because of those demonstrations last year. You might remember there were demonstrations to the October 7th massacre in Israel by Hamas, and there came to be a lot of violent protests on the campus, and Jewish students were restricted and assaulted on Harvard's campus. And so a lot of them sued, and there was a settlement. And today's settlement reflects Harvard's enduring commitment to ensuring our Jewish students are embraced, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look in the details of the case back here on the Ground News site, you can see down here, Harvard agrees to controversial definition of anti-Semitism. And that's probably where the administration is not accepting the settlement that occurred. So the settlement the trustees at Harvard made, if you can follow this, is not deemed to be adequate for the Trump administration. And again, it's another one of those times. Again, I'll provide you this link. These are very interesting sub-articles here. You can read over these summaries. Harvard's down here on what's this? Just the News. Jewish and conservative students win concessions through lawsuits. Settlement binds Harvard to use stronger definition of anti-Semitism that includes anti-Zionist discrimination, right? So I felt the settlements were adequate. I thought it was a closed issue, but let's go on and see what the Trump administration said. Again, I'll provide that link in the description block below. Then we have this one that occurred. Trump administration to review billions in grants over anti-Semitism. I was a little confused when I saw that story because I thought it was settled. But nevertheless, U.S. government is reviewing $9 billion in funding for Harvard. Now, nobody should be totally crying for Harvard. They have a $56 billion endowment. I covered that in a previous video. So the interest on that is about 5 or 6 billion a year, which is enough to cover full tuition free for students for 30 years, just using the interest on it. So I don't know that I feel sorry for Harvard to lose 9 billion in funding. Probably research grants uh, is reviewing. They're reviewing. It didn't say they were taking it. They're reviewing. And this announcement was made March 31st, which was 2 months after the settlement. Are you following this? So I'm not sure what the administration is getting to. You can read all these. The view is part of the Trump administration's broader campaign against anti-Semitism on campus, involving significant cuts to universities like Columbia. Now, Columbia had not even reviewed for corrective action, so they were kind of open. But now they are, after they got funding frozen by the administration. But I thought Harvard was clear. But they do say here that more than 100 colleges faced investigations for anti-Semitism or Islamophobia prompted by the pro-Palestinian protests that occurred last year. All right, so March 31st, the administration reviews. Let's go on. Then over here, I believe this was, I'll have to find the date on this. Let's see if I can get a date on this article here. Here's an article from NBC News, and I believe the date is after that, of course. So here's a date. Harvard defies Trump demands. Okay, so Harvard defies Trump demands is in here, $2 billion in grants. They defied it, and I think they defied it because they felt they addressed the anti-Semitism claims. See, the administration's joint task force. So if you're following this, they're freezing 2.2 billion and 60 million in multi-year grants because they're unsatisfied with the anti-Semitism improvements. But as you saw earlier, they were addressed. So I don't totally understand, kind of what's going on with this one. I don't totally understand it. All right. And by the way, that was about April 12th, I believe. Then we get this one here, which is more recent. Harvard refuses the demands for $9 billion. That's April 14th. By the way, that last one was April 14th also. So it looks like the administration is putting pressure on Harvard about the anti-Semitism. I'm a little surprised they're using that approach. Maybe they feel they can get the most pressure on Harvard that way. Harvard's still vulnerable, I think, with their sports programs and transgenders, but I'll cover that another time. Right now, this is about anti-Semitism, and I don't see why this is happening. I think there was in the news too. They're trying to take away their tax-exempt status. That's not going to go anywhere. We have a problem with the political climate on the campus. One Harvard professor did say that. There's still a problem. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe the administration thinks there's still a problem. So this thing's going to end up in court, no doubt. Let's look at this. Just the other day, the Republicans, April 17th, are launching an investigation, right? So Republicans in Congress announced an investigation. Says there's going to be hearings. Top Ivy professor in the hot seat. So we're going to see Harvard professors coming up to testify. The question is, what are the conditions on students, for Jewish students on the campus now? Like down here in this article here. And you can click any of these articles and read them after I send you the link. U.S. Department of Education has asked Harvard University to deliver a list of donations from abroad. So there's now going to be a question about foreign funding. I think the administration is shifting the issue because we do know there's a lot of shady foreign funding of these Ivy Leagues. I think that legally they have to disclose these. They typically have not disclosed these. Now that's an issue that's worth looking at, I suppose. And then one last thing I need to show you. Education Department requests Harvard records See, that looks like they're changing from anti-Semitism. So that's how confusing this is. I don't think they have a case on the anti-Semitism. I think Harvard took corrective action based on those lawsuits. And now we have this issue with inaccurate funding disclosures. Now, if that's the current issue, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But just looking at these dates here, let me see. Okay. Let's see. So this is just the other day. This is just right here, April 17th. These are occurring. So it looks to me, okay, in summary, are the administration claims against Harvard without basis? Without major basis, I would say. I think they are a little petty. Uh, and I'll say something about that in a minute. I do think this thing of foreign investments not disclosed. We know that's been going on. University of Pennsylvania, we learned during the investigations of Hunter Biden that they have a lot of donations they made off the books to a center that was run by President Biden, and then other donations to the university from Ukraine and places like that. So, and they were donations by China that I wanted to say earlier. And those needed to be disclosed, and I'm not sure they were disclosed. And I think a lot of schools have undisclosed donations from foreign countries. Um, Now, let me say something about the idea of the administration going after schools. Every administration has done it. Matter of fact, if I had time, I'd show you articles about Biola and other Christian schools, including Grand Canyon, that were under constant harassment, get letters from the federal government because their schools, which are private Christian schools, had decided that gay students and transgender students couldn't serve in offices of leadership in their Christian schools. I think Seattle Pacific too is another one. You know, every administration does this. I wasn't happy with what they were doing to Grand Canyon. Now, of course, when Trump administration came in, they retracted all those investigations for Title IX violations. Because you remember, we're going to talk about Title IX a little more probably next video, but you can use Title IX to go after schools if you're on the left or the right, Republican or Democrat. Every administration has gone after colleges ideologically. It's not just the Trump administration. But I think this thing with Harvard is a little petty. It looks to be a little petty to me. I'm not hearing anybody in the media say that, though. This thing about foreign investment is a quick change of subject, I think, because they figured out that we couldn't do it. I didn't show you an article that it turned out that it was maybe an error that they went after Harvard. This is a difficult issue for the administration. So they switched over to this other issue, which I think they have a better case. We have to wait and see. But this thing of trying to remove their tax exempt status, no, I don't think it has any legal base. Now, if all this stuff ends up in court, I'm sure they'll send it back to the lower court and they won't rule on it, and the administration won't be able to do anything, and the judge in the lower court's going to strike it. That's what I think is going to happen here. This is what happens with all of these injunctions in court cases and disagreements with the administration. All right, thank you very much. This video has gotten long enough. I'm going to talk next time about Title IX, how it affects UC and CSU. God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.